Hey everyone, J Funk here. You haven't seen me in a while. It's because I've had the coronavirus. I've been recovering for a few weeks. I'm mostly recovered now, and I feel pretty good. Also, there really hasn't been much going on in World of Warcraft the past few weeks until this week. But Blizzard and I have announced earlier this week that the Shadowlands Alpha will be this week, and they've been releasing corresponding blog posts. And we're going to go over those blog posts. Now, first look. That said, let's take a look at the Covenant abilities. The first blog post. So let's see here. Let's go down to monks. Let's see what did monks get for Covenant abilities? Oh. Well, all right. So the monks didn't really get many new Covenant abilities. They have the same Covenant ability that they had in the BlizzCon demo, which is I believe a 1.5 minute cooldown. That gives you like 15% mastery for 20 seconds. And for Windwalker monks, whenever you use RSK, when you activate the cooldown, when you activate this cooldown, RSK's cooldown is instantly reset. And then when you use RSK, it reduces the chi cost of your other abilities by 1, I believe. 1 chi for a few seconds. It's okay. An additional cooldown doesn't really change a whole lot as right now, as what we know now, but it might change things later. But yeah, all the other ones are a work in progress, so I guess we'll see this later on in the alpha stage. Let's move on to the class updates. So let's look at the class philosophy. Blah 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Scroll down to the class we're talking about here, Windwalkers. So let's go look at the general changes. Expel Harm, Fortifying Brew, Spinning Crane Kick, and Touch of Death are now available for all monk specs to use. Additionally, Touch of Death is returning to its original Mists of Pandaria design, where if it kills an enemy, it reduces it can only kill an enemy that has less HP than the monk. Which means right now in BFA, if pre-patch were to go live and no scaling changes were to happen, which they will, but if this ability was in BFA, you would not be able to use Touch of Death unless the target had, in my case, 580k HP. And the original Touch of Death also cost 3 chi to use and had a 1.5 minute cooldown. So on boss fights, this ability is mostly going to be useless. They did change this ability in Warlords of Draenor so that you could use it on bosses if they had 10% or less HP. But generally speaking, this ability isn't going to be very useful. The problem that I have with the Mists of Pandaria version of Touch of Death is that it's like a pad spell, right? You're using it, so if I were to use it in a Mythic Plus dungeon, the mob would have like 2% HP left. So I'm using it to kill a mob that was gonna die in like a second anyway. But now I just did I overkilled it and did a bunch of damage. What am I really providing to my group? It doesn't seem very useful at all. But anyways, all 3 specs are gonna get their Celestial, which is really cool. It means Windwalkers get Invoke Swen, Brewmasters get Nizao, and Mistweavers get Invoke Yu'lon. Invoke Yu'lon, I'm not sure what Invoke Yu'lon means. Does it mean, because there's the Jade statue, but I don't think that there currently exists an Invoke Yu'lon ability. It's Invoke Chi-Ji, so kind of interested to see what that ends up being. But for Windwalker monks will once again be able to use 2-hand weapons. It doesn't state anywhere here that jab will be returning. It doesn't state that anywhere, which is weird to me. What is the sole purpose for being able to use 2-hand weapons if they don't bring jab back? I feel like for a lot of people, they wanted 2-hand weapons back for the aesthetic of jab, because jab was like Tiger Palm, where it was your primary generator back in Mist, but the jab ability would change depending on what weapon that you had equipped or were using. So if you had like a different weapon equipped, it would do a different animation with the jab. And I feel like that's what most people wanted out of this change, but it doesn't state anywhere that they did this. So until we get access to the Shadowlands Alpha and C, it could just be Tiger Palm still, which is quite weird. And also, I'm not sure why this is a bullet point, like a highlight bullet point for Windwalker monks. Like, if it's just gonna be a like a transmog aesthetic thing, like it seems very strange. Additionally, later in the post here, they reiterate that all Windwalker monks will have invokes Wen, which was previously a talent that is no longer a talent. They say Zwen will fight by our side and assault enemies with target lightning, dealing additional damage to targets the monk has recently attacked. Not quite sure what this means. Not a lot of details on this. I would assume that maybe this means that he deals more damage to targets that have Mark of the Crane on them. I'm just guessing here, speculating. I have no idea. Additionally, Touch of Death will kill any creature with less health than the Windwalker monk and will spawn chi spheres that the Windwalker monk can consume to perform devastating blows. So I'm assuming if you kill a target with TOD, it's going to spawn a bunch of chi spheres in that area. So you could use those, you could walk over those and pick them up to restore your chi. The chi spheres being the chi spheres that are summoned. There's a passive that Windwalker has called Afterlife, where if you kill a target with Blackout Kick, there's a 50% chance that it spawns one chi orb next to you, and if you walk over it, it will grant you one chi. I'm assuming this is what this means. It's very similar, but maybe it spawns like 3 chi orbs or something. Who knows? It doesn't say. It's fine. It's cool, but I think personally for me, I don't really like the old TOD coming back. I think it was a pretty archaic design, and there was a reason they replaced it in Legion, because people didn't really like it. It ended up being pretty useless most of the time. So we'll see how it ends up happening here, but I think most of the feedback for TOD is going to be negative. Additionally, in the Shadowlands, wild gods freely wander the woods of Ardenweald. And because of this, Windwalker monks have learned the talent Dance of Chi-Ji. This is a new passive talent. So they took the Dance of Chi-Ji Azurite trait and then made it a talent. And since Zwen is no longer a talent, we can assume that maybe Dance of Chi-Ji replaces Zwen in that row. We don't know yet, but all we do know is that Zwen is no longer a talent and Dance of Chi-Ji is a talent. I am personally not a big fan of this at all. I didn't like Dance of Chi-Ji in BFA. I just tolerated it because that was BFA's class design. But for me, Windwalker monk has always been the consistent damage class. Like you can always rely on it to do damage when it does damage. It doesn't have very many procs in it. It just does damage, and it's very easy to tune because of that. Excuse me, but adding Dance of Chi-Ji as a baseline talent is going to make Windwalker's AoE feel very swingy and very proc based. And when I think of a Windwalker monk, I don't think of procs. Again, I think of consistent damage. So I really don't like this. Hopefully they'll reconsider, because this talent is not a good fit for Windwalker monk in the way that I envision it, at least. But maybe you guys out there like the talent and want to see it added. That's perfectly fine. We all have different views. But my main worry coming from this post is that we don't really have that much information. If this is all they changed, like Windwalker monk didn't really get much at all compared to other classes in this post that got multiple new talents and changes and like baseline spec changes. Windwalker monk seems like it's basically the same class, except now you use Zwen on cooldown and use TOD later in the fight, maybe sometimes. And that doesn't seem very exciting to me, because now we have like the worst of both worlds, where we have the old TOD that no one really liked, and then we have Legion, Storm, Earth, and Fire, which is kind of no one likes, and then we have the AoE RNG of BFA that not very many people were a fan of. I don't know. Right now, the design seems kind of like a hodgepodge of bad decisions from my perspective, but there's a lot that we don't know yet. We only know 1 out of the 4 Covenant abilities. We don't know the legendaries or soul packs, and we'll learn all about that more later into the alpha stage. But for now, that'll be me signing off. Hopefully we can see more of the alpha. I'll make more videos. Good to be back, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.